We want to begin by reminding you that your work is to calibrate to your desire, which means your work is to think thoughts that harmonize with your desires. Your work isn't to just evaluate what is and give a report about it. And yet the majority of what you sent is sort of kind of like that. It's like a statement of what is, sometimes in a complaining attitude, often in a pleading attitude, often in a, how can I get into a different place? And of course we understand all of that. But we want to emphasize with you right here at the beginning of these conversations that the work that you have to figure out a way to do is the work of creating rather than reacting, thinking rather than responding, deciding rather than merely noticing. And mostly, it's about reporting from the upper half of the emotional scale rather than from the lower half of the emotional scale. Now we know, especially for those of you who are new to these conversations, but to all of you really, we know that when something happens, you want to talk about it. But we want you to think about whether you really want to continue trending about things unwanted. Somehow, at some point, you've just got to come to the realization of what your inner being has been revealing to you for a very long time. That you have choices in the way you react, but that your reaction is more about the things that you're deciding to do even before the opportunity to react comes. In other words, feel the power in making a statement and really meaning it. A statement such as this: I'm going to become better at thinking about the things that are important to me, instead of reacting to the things as they seem to be and then trying to figure out how to get around that. Feel the power in deciding, I'm going to get out ahead of what's going to come to me today by intending that I'm going to have a wonderful day. I'm going to prepave my day by acknowledging that I have choices all day long. And there are people that when I talk with them, I complain more. And there are people that when I talk with them, I complain less. I'm going to talk to more of the people that I complain less with. And I'm going to do a better job of complaining less no matter who I'm talking to. In other words, get out ahead of it. Make some decisions. Get hold of this thing that is called you create your own reality. Get hold of it and do it on purpose. Be determined. Think about what determination is. Determination is an attitude of, I am going to get a hold of this. I'm going to make this happen. I can do this. Rather than an attitude of, this is hard, or I don't know what to do, or I'm in a state of confusion. We know that Esther will get some letters that Abraham is delivering a sort of uncomfortable, tough love to us here today. But it really is time that you accept that your point of attraction is attracting. And that if your point of attraction is happening because you're disappointed about something, or worried about something, or afraid of something, then what comes to you in terms of conversations or memories or dreams, what comes to you is coming in response to your continual output, of which you have more control than you are demonstrating to yourself. You're not disappointing us. This isn't a scolding about getting hold of this and doing a better job. This basically is the answer to almost everything that almost all of you were complaining about in this week's submissions. You just can't get to where you want to be by conveying in detail where you are. That gets you nowhere. But we will acknowledge with you that it is a step one moment, that acknowledging where you are is causing you to launch some rockets of desire about what you prefer. You never know more clearly what you want than when you are standing in a situation or thinking about a situation that is not what you want. That comparative process is what helps you to know. But we're just asking you to make a determination, decide to get hold of this. Don't use Abraham as a complaining sounding board. Don't use any of your friends that way either. Don't plead for improvement. Intend improvement. And accept that you are the improver of the improvement. There's not someone or something outside of yourself that you're asking for these favors or these improvements, because you've already done that asking, and that asking has already been given. Source, what you want to call God, your inner being, all of that non-physical, angel and care and love, all of that energy has already responded to your requests. But your pleading is just an indicator that you're in a place where you're not yet letting it in. You got to become more optimistic. You've got to get on the upper half of the emotional scale. And everything that we talk about all day long is about that. So we are eager to talk with you about anything that matters to you. Nothing is off limits. Nothing is off limits. It is our desire, not only with those of you who will sit here and we will play with, but it is our desire with each of you that you will soften any resistance to any desire that you hold. Soften any resistance. In other words, the doubt fades while the interest grows. The doubt dissolves while the knowing replaces it. And the result of that is satisfaction. The result of that is a feeling of love, but love is another word that we can't say to you very much, because every time we say it, you think we mean what you mean. We don't use the word God either, because you've got that all sort of mixed up. There are so many things that you perceive that we understand why you perceive them, because you've been basing your perception on watching the behavior of others and even the behavior of yourself. But again, we want to emphasize that's old news. How anything is happening, how anything is behaving, what's going on anywhere with anyone is old news. So whenever you look at old news, do you know what old news is meant for? Old news is intended by you to be the bouncing off place to the new idea. Because it is the new idea in the making that is the greatest satisfaction of life. To have an idea of something that you desire and not be killing it with your doubt is the most delicious state of being. And then to witness universal forces, call it God force if you must, universal forces joining with your flowing of energy toward the gathering of the cooperative components for the results that you seek in terms of manifestation. Please understand, we are not in any way trying to divert your attention from manifestation. You came for manifestation because you are creators, and manifesting into physical form is the most delicious, most extended version of creation. You're not here without that which is non-physical. All that is non-physical is here with you on this leading edge, enjoying your manifestations. But non-physical is enjoying your manifestations in the making, while you are so often yearning for them to come out where you can see them. It would be paramount to putting a kernel of corn in the ground with your knowledge that if it is tended to, that it will become that full plant with ears of corn that you can then harvest and enjoy. But you're stomping on the kernels of corn so often, demanding that they come out before you have allowed them the season, the tending, the nurturing, the natural evolution and expansion of the desire. And we want to help you to feel the satisfaction factor in standing in the absence of the manifestation, but the knowledge of its becoming. so that you don't have to see it in order to believe it. You believe it because you know the process. You believe it because you understand your worthiness. You believe it because you believe in the goodness of all that is. You believe it because you have this knowledge that is coming forth from within, and because you have been practicing the art of allowing for a little while, even though you can't see it, you believe it. And then you'll see it. But if you demand that you must see it before you believe it, then you're going to be stuck in this dissatisfaction mode. And that is the reason that we are here visiting with you. We think you should be happy all day, every day. It is our knowing that you are pure positive energy, and we know the eagerness with which you came forth into this physical experience. And if in any moment of time you're not feeling satisfied, joyful anticipation of things that are unfolding, then that means you're pinching yourself off from the part of you that we are referring to as your inner being, who is right here enjoying this process of unfolding. You cannot separate yourself from your inner being and what your inner being knows and feel good at the same time. And your inner being knows everything that you have sifted and sorted through the knowing what you don't want and knowing what you do want, and the launching of the rockets of desire into this vibrational reality. Your inner being is there with you relative to all of those things. There is nothing that you cannot be or do or have. But if you could just not care about the manifestations as much as you feel about the satisfaction, the feeling of satisfaction as your creative juices are flowing, it would be like a sculptor who is so much more adoring the process of creating the sculpture than the sculpture that has been created. It's the process that gives you life, you see. And you got to sort of kind of know that, because every time, haven't you noticed, every time you ask for something and line up with it and it comes, isn't it very short-lived satisfaction in terms of it? Aren't you often running on something else again? Didn't your parents say to you, you're never satisfied? And they didn't mean that in a good way, because they thought that they were the vortex through which you thought all your good could come. And sometimes you thought that too. In other words, your parents weren't misunderstanding you completely. Isn't it a nice thing when you get it, that you have the ability and the right and the worthiness? That's the part that we're going to work on with you a little bit today. The worthiness to allow the natural unfolding of the cooperative components assembling to give you anything and everything that you want. And we think that before we're finished today, you'll be as enthusiastic about the process of unfolding as we all are about your process of unfolding. So, what do you want to talk about?